Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Goffstown School Board. I call this meeting at 7 p.m. If we could all stand and say the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we're going to start with correspondence.
None this evening.
Okay. That was quick. Accommodations, good news. Caleb?
Hello. So while we're here, this is Lily. So she is hopefully my successor, currently running uncontested. As I've mentioned before, this position is not an attractive one to students. But so we'll both be here this
Yes.
meeting and then the next meeting. And the next meeting will be my last meeting. Because that'll be kind of the interim one, because elections are next week for this position.
Okay.
And then we'll both be the next one, and then after that, she will be your liaison to the high school, because I will have graduated.
I know, wonderful. Congratulations,
And then
Caleb.
I do have some actual accommodations. So first, the prom this past weekend, the junior class did an excellent job putting it together. It's the first integrated prom with the junior and senior class combined, as well as external guests that we've been able to have, and it went over very well. Additionally, our equestrian team competed this past weekend, and a number of them placed. I won't go through all the details. I'd like to specifically recognize one of them, Lucy Exner. She's a freshman. She placed first in 5 categories and qualified for the state championships in all 5 of those categories. That's just one of many achievements that the team received this weekend. Thought I'd just give them a little note, and that's everything.
Thank you. Welcome, Lily,
Thank
tonight.
you.
If you have any questions, raise your hand. Anyone else? Accommodations, good news? Ginny?
do.
Oh, sorry, Alan.
Just one quick thing. I have noticed
Hang
in
on.
the past number of weeks, school bulletin boards thanking volunteers, thanking the voters, and a lot was done for the volunteers in our schools and our staff, and it does my heart good to hear that people are expressing that appreciation for what our school staff does all the way around. So,
Absolutely.
that's very much appreciated, I think.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Ellen. Go ahead, Ginny.
I saw it in the paper, Chase Hall, which is the young man who just received his Eagle Scout rank. He was the young man who did the trail, redid the trail at Mountain View Middle School, the nature trail, and he did really a nice job. If you ever want to go out for a little nature walk, he did a nice job doing it over. I know we did it a jillion years ago when the school opened, and then somebody has done it, but he did a nice job redoing it, and there was a picture of some of the work that he did. And we've been out there. It's really nice. So he did get his Eagle Scout Award. I thought that the Staff Appreciation Day meeting was great. It was so nice to see all of our teachers together. It was a nice afternoon. And the other thing is, I just wanted to mention that our past Reverend, got that mixed up with the tongue, Exner passed away, which was a very sad thing for Goffstown. He always supported Goffstown schools.
Huge supporter
to
and
the utmost.
very involved in a lot of behind-the-scenes things. A very, very good man. Very sad.
And our youth as well.
Agreed.
Always youth
Agreed.
forum and all of those things. So
Yep.
just wanted to mention that was a sad for our kids.
Thank you, Ginny. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Retta.
I also wanted to make a ditto on the all-staff day. It was really great to see both New Boston and the Goffstown school districts together. I think the weather cooperated. It was a great day. The band did a wonderful performance. It was really great to hear from everybody. And I think the messages shared back to the staff were also well received. So wanted to say that. Another just commendation for the recent presentation that was done regarding the internet and children. I was not able to attend. It was recorded, so I hope you'll be able to watch that again. But and maybe we can share that out again, because I think it's especially with parents where the kids are a lot more savvy than they are. It's hard to know what's really happening. So I think that's a great resource for parents and guardians to tap into.
Right, absolutely.
I don't remember who sponsored that. Was that the police? Goffstown Police?
No, so that was done, actually, Detective Fleming is a pretty close friend of Goffstown High School. He was a parent, his kids went through school here, he was a longtime softball coach for us, so he's been a very good partner for us. I can't remember who started the conversation, but anytime we can get Matt Fleming to be here, it's a value add for parents. And I would encourage parents, if you weren't able to attend that session, to watch the video. GTV recorded it. We're not always able to record those, so I was glad that this time we were able to, because given the kind of sensitive nature of the discussion and questions that come up, a lot of times these sessions aren't recorded, but this one was. So I would encourage people to stay ahead of it, because holy cow, technology moves pretty fast, and our kids are much better at all of this than we are.
Yes.
And I believe it was the New Hampshire Internet Crimes Task Force, I think.
ICAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Retta. Anyone else? Commendations, good news? All right, seeing none, I'll open to public comment, but I don't see anyone. So the next is approving 2 sets of minutes, one from the 18th and one from the 21st. So we'll do the 18th first. Did anybody see anything?
I'll move approval of the minutes of April 18th.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Shane. All right, anybody see anything? All right, seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining.
Abstaining.
So we have 1 abstention and the rest yes. All right, so the 21st, that was just a couple of minutes before the SAU board meeting.
Move to approve as presented.
All right, by Dan, do I have a
Seconded.
second? By Jared. Any changes? Anybody see anything? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 1 abstention. Ginny's abstaining. Everyone else said yes. All right, getting into committee reports. Scott, or what do you want to do first, Scott, or
Why don't we do the manifest? Is that
manifest
okay?
first? Okay.
Yep.
All
So
right,
the
Dan.
first thing I'd like to do is make a motion, we approve a manifest dated May 2nd in the amount of $1,717,642.14.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
By Ellen. All right, Dan, go ahead.
We've got some payroll taxes, benefits, about 1.45 million. Normal things, sped. Some out-of-district expenses, contracted services, totaling $30,000. General expenses, our truck center for the buses, $84,000. Propane, Dead River, $17,000. Scott might tell you a little later that we exhausted the first contract for propane. Then we signed another one, we exhausted that one, and now we're kind of like in the third one. So the pricing has gone a little bit, but if I could have the pricing we got, we'd be all happy
I
anyway.
know.
So that's pretty good. So Amazon Capital, basically school supplies and equipment, between them and WB Mason, we're about 20,000. Electricity to Eversource, 7,500. Food service, 23,000 for food. And Hood, milk, including chocolate. Somebody actually wrote it there, that's cute. About 7,700.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Caleb.
Is there a reason the food subtotal doesn't seem to include the Hood milk purchase?
Yeah, it was just an error
Okay.
in the formula.
Thank you, Caleb. Anyone else a question? All right, so I'll take a vote then. All those in favor of approving the manifest, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. Go ahead.
The second
Dan.
one is the manifest for May 16th. I'd like to make a motion, we approve that manifest in the total amount of $1,733,293.89.
All right, do I have a second? By Ellen, thank you, Ellen. Go ahead, Dan.
Payroll, taxes, benefit to $2 million. Sped activities and general expense, we have a few more. We've got the transportation for March for Durham School Services, about $19,600. Some more out-of-district placements for about $24,000 to the Lighthouse School and Birch Tree Center. Core vocational contracted services for April, 10 grand. And the Safe Wheels transportation, 7,500. So general, we paid the SAU for their services for May, 108,000. The Goffstown Truck Center is just about 98,000. We had some repairs at the Goffstown High School, fence repairs in the Bartlett Playground, 24,500, from what I understand. Trees don't withstand wind. It fell and went boom, took out the fence. That will be a insurance claim, so some of that money's coming back. Northeast Door Company, Glen Lake, the base of the frames on 8 to 10 doors were rusting out, so they actually got replaced, 21,000. There's another couple of thousand for doing some ancillary work for it, but since the whole project was about 30 grand in total, we saved about 7 from our estimate. Eversource, electricity, 20,661. The Home Depot Pro, that's our custodial supplies, 12,700. The quarterly copier lease for Xerox, 12,500. Fire alarm and suppression repairs, 10,000. Propane for Dead River, this time 8,700. Security installation repairs from Pelmac. Some paper and school supplies from WB Mace at about 6 grand. Panda Doc. You know Panda Doc? That's how we're all signing things electronically now. The software licensing fee for this past year, plus all the overages, because what we're actually using it much more than what was originally anticipated. And from what we understand, the cost to do that actually saves more in paper and in staff time. Goffstown Village Water Precinct, the water cost, the quarterly $50, and food service, about $9,000.
Ellen?
Yeah, just a question for my edification. The special ed costs, one is March, April, and the other one is March, April, and one May. But the dollar amount is like $30,000 difference. Why would that be?
Which, can you,
Special ed.
yeah,
You're
which
talking
one?
from last
But
month to this
comparing
month?
the two of them.
Oh, the
Okay.
total?
The totals, yeah. But why would they be so different?
The billing is, again, these are manifest, they're not monthly.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind that every provider bills differently, so some of them bill like 1 month ahead, some bill 1 month, 30 months in arrears, some bill 60 days in arrears. So they're all, that's why you'll see like March, April, May, because they all bill on different cycles.
Different times
Yeah,
of the month?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Anyone else question? All right, so I'll take a vote on approving the manifest. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right,
Scott has the
Scott.
rest.
Yeah, I had a few other things. So Megan, our food service director, as you recall, we have to proceed with a new point of sale software system for food service. The current vendor, which is Meal Magic, is not compliant with some of our data privacy agreements, so we had to find another one. She secured 2 competitive bids, and myself, Laura Taylor, and Megan reviewed them, and we awarded it to Titan. Titan had the most of the features that we were looking for. Most importantly was a parent portal, the ability to pay, see menus online. The other vendor, which was Mosaic, did not have that. The good thing is that the price of the Titan software is going to be less than what we have budgeted over the course of a 2-year period of time. There is an initial upfront cost that we have to deal with in terms of installation. Megan also wanted to let the board know that we're going to keep Meal Magic, the licensing fee for that, for 1 year, so that we can make sure that our data migrates over well. And then after that, we'll be proceeding full bore with Titan. So Megan wishes to meet with the board more than likely at your last meeting in June. She is her cooperative that she purchases all of her food with. They open up their bids Tuesday after your first June meeting, Megan is concerned that, as our other food service directors, that we're going to see a pretty hefty increase in food costs, which will more than likely need to be translated into recommendations to change our school breakfast and lunch prices. So she wants to be able to have that data and make a recommendation to you in your last meeting of June, because those would have to take effect, in September. And she will more than likely also chat with you about a recommended change in policy in terms of when kids go over, when their account is in arrears, what's that threshold. So she's going to do those two things for you in June. So I wanted to let you know that.
Scott, just, if we can just add, the second meeting in June is going to be the board retreat.
I know.
I understand the sensitive nature of her needing the prices approved, so I would think we could do that. For the policy piece, that might be something for her to give a recommendation and then send to the policy committee.
That's exactly what she's intending to do.
I just don't think, we're going to have a busy retreat agenda. I just don't think we're going to have a lot of time to talk about that policy.
The other thing that I wanted to let the board know in terms of, we have got, at least 35 to 40 projects that we're working on between Goffstown and New Boston. They're all moving along, some faster than others. I told the A&F committee that the sign that we're looking at doing, that went a little faster than I thought it would. So we still have some due diligence there, but that's something that might happen over the summer. I thought it might happen like in late fall, if that. But permits went through. The New Hampshire DOE approved it already, so it's gone faster. We are on track for the windows project, which is our biggest project this summer. There was testing for asbestos in the caulking, and they did find some asbestos in the caulking. Again, it was 3 to 5% asbestos-containing materials, and I'm not sure of the technical term, Brian, you might remember, but what it's exactly called. But it's super, super minimal, but yet it requires containment and some other things. So it's far from the worst scenario, which we had planned for, but we're still going to have some asbestos abatement costs. We don't think it's going to impact any of our timelines. The contractor that we've been working with doesn't seem to think it's going to impact things to that extent. But so that's really the biggie there. We're going to be talking about CIP a little bit later on. And then lastly, the Goffstown High School field renovation project. We didn't have an A&F meeting prior to the last school board meeting, but at that A&F meeting, I had a proposal to have a similar committee that Jared is on for the theater, and Ellen had volunteered to be on. So that committee, we have to get, I think, 2 or 3 members of the community. So if there's anybody in the community who wants to work on that type of project, certainly let myself or this athletic director know, because we have to get rolling on that. These projects take a lot of time and effort. So
Ellen,
we want to get cracking on that.
Yes, to be
over
on
the
that.
summer. We plan on doing a lot of work over the summer on that one. And that is it for me.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Heather?
Yes, Dan?
Hey, Scott?
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking of is keeping Meal Magic around for a year. How are we going to mitigate their lack of compliance with the data district policy?
I think it's just having our data there. I'll have to talk to Steve about I don't know if they're web hosted or if they're hosted on a server, but I can chat with Steve in terms of making sure that data is segregated. But I think it's just a matter of having the data.
Right, because whatever it is in a secure methodology and everything else, it's complicated, it's severe, but if they can't be the POS, I just wonder, are we protecting the data? So if Steve can let us know, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so moving on, Budget Committee. Jared?
So the last meeting was April 19th, which Ellen attended. It was a fun-filled extravaganza from what I saw on YouTube. So thank you to Ellen for covering probably 2 hours of her life for that meeting. Nothing nothing of substance coming up, but it's, anybody that watches it, there's definitely a feel of duality going on with the budget committee. So some things are just playing out. We're trying to just sit back to understand what's happening and not really trying to press anybody's buttons at this point from the budget committee standpoint.
Okay.
So some politicking going on there. For upcoming meetings, and I hope Ms. Moran is ready for this, the budget committee wants to do facility reviews that are occurring. So on May 24th, the budget committee will be looking at the DPW, Grasmere Town Hall, and Fire Station 18. So this is members of the budget committee going to those areas to look at really whatever capital improvement needs that are needed. Nobody from this board has to attend these, of course, other than me or Ellen. The next is June 7th, and again, I believe these are all on Tuesdays. They'll be reviewing Bernard Park, the police station, and Fire Station 19. And then June 21st, for some reason, they're listing Fire Station 18 again, so I'll make sure to check on that. But also the town hall and the library. So they're looking to do their facilities reviews of the town. I imagine they're going to want to do school reviews as well, like we did a couple years ago. My recommendation would always be to work what's easier for our administration, probably on a Saturday versus a nighttime. But again, I would look to our administration to say what days our principals would be available, days or nights, so that we can do those, reviews or just walkthroughs of our schools.
Do you want those to try to be in the month of June to keep that same schedule? Do you have a preference of when?
I don't have a preference. I could definitely reach out to Jeff O'Brien, the chair of the budget committee, but I think really for us narrowing down, would we want to do weekends or would we want to do nighttime, I think is kind of our first
What do you think,
take of
Mr.
it.
Gross? We've done it both ways.
I think I'd like to ask the principals because it's their time.
So I just asked the administration to just get back to me offline, and then I can work with Mr. O'Brien to figure that out.
Okay, we'll do.
If I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Just one little thing.
Yeah.
I know it's not light out very much right now.
No.
And then we'll get lighter, but whenever we do it, I would strongly recommend it be done while it's daylight out so people can see the properties and where CIP
Oh,
things
yes.
are changing, so that they can actually see the grounds and playgrounds and turn around and
Right.
that kind of stuff as well, 'cause it's not just our buildings.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
for the town ones, they're starting at 6 PM, so
Okay.
if we wanted to do 6 PM as well, I don't know if we'd be able to do 2 or 3 schools at a time, but I know that we have a very exhaustive CIP plan that we'd want each individual item to be reviewed. That's on
Right.
our CIP.
Right. Okay. Ellen, do you have anything to add from the meeting? No? All right, guys, thank you. PNC, Retta.
Yes, PNC met this evening, and it'll be the last meeting for this year, as we have the retreat next month. As Brian mentioned, June 20th, it's from 3 to 8 at St. A's. One of the pieces of the retreat, we discussed some ideas, and Brian will be working on that as well, but a lot of it may be based on our own personal reflection. So you'll recall in the past, we've done a self-review. I discovered it's actually in one of the policies, and the questions are there. I think at some point we may want to look at the questions and determine if they're appropriate or not, or if we want to change any of those. But for now, those are the questions that will be reviewed. Brian is going to be working on doing this electronically, so we can fill out a survey. It will be compiled and distributed back out to everyone prior to our next, prior to the retreat. So that'll give us time to read it ahead of time. So there may be some items that come to the retreat based on everyone's responses. And we did have a non-public business tonight that we'll be bringing to the board at the end.
Okay.
That's it.
Perfect, thank you, Retta. Policy review, we met last Monday, and further on, we have lots of policies to go over tonight.
24 of them.
Yes, and we are done for the school year. We will not have a meeting next month, but we'll start back up in September. Yes, to give everybody a break.
You guys have been working.
Yes, we have been. C&E, Ginny?
We have not. I believe, Brian, we have a meeting
23rd.
on the 23rd, which will be our end-of-the-year review and looking towards next year. And there will not be a June meeting.
What time on the 23rd?
6:30?
7.
7 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Ginny. Facilities Planning Committee, Jared?
We have not met since our last school board meeting. I will be talking with Mr. Gross at the conclusion of our meeting today to schedule our next meeting for facilities planning. I do not believe we're going to get one done before Memorial Day at this point.
Okay, all right,
So.
sounds good. Thank you, Jared. All right, Superintendents Report.
Thank you.
Ooh.
We were excited today to have members from the Akawaba Ensemble, which does African drumming, that was at Mountain View Middle School today as part of our Artist in Residence program. And the Artist in Residence was Theo Marti, and teaching kids about drumming and African culture, and it's really a pretty neat program, so we were excited to welcome them. We will be doing Homeland Security remote penetration testing. This is something that Mr. Bourget has been working on for some time, where essentially they do a penetration test for us and identify vulnerabilities and then meet with us and give us recommendations. So we expect that report in the June to July timeframe. Mrs. McKinnon had asked a question about exit interviews. I wanted to let you know I followed up with Mrs. McGrath, and she said, yes, all of your concerns are addressed. She went and watched that section of the meeting to make sure that all of your questions were addressed, Ginny.
Thank you.
Caleb mentioned a few things, but the prom, the big thing for me is the prom was uneventful. So what I'm always looking for is uneventful. There are 2 nights that make me really nervous. One is the prom and the other is high school graduation. So the kids looked great. I saw some nice photos, and it was wonderful for them to be able to have a prom this year. I wanted to let the board know the Italy trip that this board has previously approved for February of '23.
Yes.
February of '23, at this point is on hold. The 2 chaperones who were going to be hosting it are no longer available to do the trip. So we are trying to see if we can find another faculty member who might be interested. And if not, unfortunately, we may not be able to run the trip. And you might have seen, there was a group from New Hampshire that got stuck in Italy just a short while ago because they had kids with COVID and they weren't allowed to leave. But at this point, we're still working on it. I've not lost hope. Hopefully, we can come up with a couple more chaperones. So Mr. Gross and I continue to have pretty significant concerns about busing for next year. You're not feeling it in Goffstown as much right now, but we have several runs in New Boston that are impacted that I don't have drivers for. We've lost a number of drivers, so we've got a lot of what we went through in Goffstown several months ago, we're now going through in New Boston. Buses that are 45 minutes late, that we can't pick kids up on time. That's what we're dealing with in New Boston. And Scott and I continue to have a lot of concerns. There just still are not enough people interested in becoming a driver, going through the training, doing all the regulatory elements. We're still just very, very concerned.
I definitely want this in the minutes, and I hope it becomes one of our top 3 things of this meeting, but the bus driver situation is not getting better at all. And unless folks in the community step up and volunteer or whatever to be bus drivers, you get paid, by the way, to do this, we're going to have just as many impacts as we did this year, maybe even worse. So I'm very, very, very concerned. So the reason why I'm saying this is that if the public, this is a crisis situation. I don't throw those words out, frivolously. We have opportunities to train bus drivers this summer so that we can, deal with this, come September. But if folks don't step up and become bus drivers, we're going to be in very, very bad shape. I don't suspect that we're going to be able to resume Mountain View co-curricular transportation. That's like almost impossible. We're one or 2 drivers away from not even be able to provide high school co-curricular transportation. If one of those drivers decides that they no longer want to do it or there's some other issue, we are in horrible shape. We had a driver come down from Laconia to take kids on co-curricular transportation. So I've had conversations with administration here and at Mountain View. We're going to be meeting with the union about the possibility of staff trying to fill jobs and have, dual roles. I mean, this is a crisis situation in our community, and people, need to know that. Before we had, whether it be senior citizens in our community, or we had parents with flexible work schedules during the day, like, folks have to step up. We are in dire situation. Dire.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead, Dan.
Can you remind me what we had talked about with the minibuses, whether they were allowed, not allowed?
They're not allowed, the smaller, when we say buses, I call them
Van.
12 and 15 passenger
Yeah.
vans.
Yeah.
They are almost impossible to come by right now. They're like 8 to 12-month waiting periods for them. Before Merchants Motors in Hooksett was like calling me, hey, you want it? Now you couldn't find one if you wanted. The other issue is you can't use them from home to school.
Yeah.
Okay, the law doesn't allow you. You can use it for co-curriculars.
Right, I remember reading something in the law. Did we not talk about it after I read the law?
I don't know, I'm not sure what you may have read. I
Okay.
did speak to the state trooper who's responsible for student transportation, and you still need a bus driver certification to even drive one of those vans, school to home.
Because
That has not changed.
Because it's 15 passengers, and if it was less than 15, it
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. On the
Okay.
co-curricular, it does matter. If you're under 15
Right.
and it's co-curricular, anybody can drive the students to a field trip, you can to a sporting event, music audition, you name it, but you can't do it for home to school.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Ginny?
This may be a way off base idea, but is it worth touching base with Manchester Transit Authority to see if they know of any tricks of the trade to find bus people?
We can certainly reach out to them. I think this is not just a Goffstown issue. It's
Yeah.
it's a country, it's all across the country. But we've been trying to uncover every rock on this one. I mean, to the point where we're looking to maybe perhaps create jobs for people during the school day so they can supplement driving the bus in the morning and the afternoon, which we've never really done. We're talking about having more coaches, training coaches and advisors to do it, because we might not be able to get them transportation to an event. So it's critical. I'm even seeing if Caleb will learn to drive the bus. So when we get down to that, then
How about Brian? He won a contest
Yeah,
once.
you did.
there'll be one
To be
expensive-
clear, that was about speed, not safety. Speed and safety, different.
Whole different category.
So I'm going to hold you to it.
I've got a few more things,
go ahead, Brian.
and I will say that I have contemplated driving a bus myself many times. Mr. Gross has repeatedly, successfully thus far, talked me out of it. But he's right, it's just not getting any better. And so right now, New Boston's feeling it, Goffstown's not, so we'll just keep moving forward. But I want to let you know that every year the Department of Education releases what's called disproportionality determinations, where they essentially go through a statistical analysis of our population, including all of the different categorical areas of educational disabilities, and they issue a report. We did not have any findings this year. We haven't in a number of years, but that is something that sometimes happens. There's a new round of SVPP, School Violence Prevention Program, that is going to have a filing period at the end of June, looking at things like access control, locks, cameras, and other deterrent measures. I know that Mr. Bourget already has a number of things in the queue. That is a 75-25 match for projects that we would be looking at. The board should have received an email that I sent out, but speaking of the truck center, they have a new GPS tracking app that parents can download and follow their kid's school bus. So far, I have not heard anything negative about that. That's ahead of schedule. They were originally planning to roll this out next year, and we asked them rather convincingly to do it this year, and they did. I wanted to let Mr. Cloutier know that Mr. Bourget has asked if you wanted to have a tech committee meeting. Okay, that was easy.
Yes.
That was an easy one. We'll let him know. He's got a couple of things, and I know he was thinking about coming and presenting to C&E. He would rather stay with the tech committee.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay,
makes
so
sense, and
we'll-
whatever his staff he
Okay.
brings in to do it too.
Okay, we'll get that set up. Retta mentioned the retreat. I do want to let you know that
Brian?
I'm sorry.
Before we change subject, I thought it would be important for the public to understand that the bus tracking, you need confidential and private information in order to be able to track. It's not open.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
It
thought
is a closed system, and then again, they're only tracking a bus. There's no student privacy
Right.
information, but thank you. For the retreat, the electronic reflections that we will do, I do want to let you know, I would just remind everyone that those are all going to be public information, so whatever you fill out in that, just know that that will be reviewed publicly, and we would hope to be able to get everyone's reflections so that you can review them before the retreat. So instead of just having a conversation, you're going to fill out a little form online that'll be like a little, kind of like a survey, but it'll be easy, you'll be fine. And I just want you to know that it will be public. Area on the 16th at 7, SAU policy on the 16th at 6.
Right,
And at this point, we're getting kind of down to the end of the wire.
right. Well, and
and,
the area is the full board.
The area is
It's
the
not the
full,
subcommittee.
full board, not the subcommittee.
What date was it?
June
16.
16.
At 7.
And we're gonna do policy right before.
SAU policy at 6.
And that's when I may have a CIP that night, so I wouldn't be there.
Right, you might
Yeah.
be coming back
Yeah.
and forth or whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and that was all I had. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, so moving on to old business, revisiting the Mountain View turnaround motion. Scott, do you want to talk about?
Yeah,
there's a
so
sheet with us.
one little thing, technical in nature, but we're funding it with ESSER 3, not with ESSER 2, so that was.
All right, so we need to have someone reread this motion. Ellen?
To correct the motion made on April 18th having to do with Mountain View bus turnaround, I motion to authorize the business administrator to proceed with the MVMS bus turnaround project using ESSER 3 funds up to $130,000 and to work with the district's engineering consultant, Stantec, to develop construction documents, cost estimates, and an RFP for this project. The board reserves the right to adjust the use of ESSER funds amount after engineering and cost estimates are complete.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have a
Heather,
second?
before you ask for a second.
Yes.
A process motion. Because this was already approved for ESSER 2 funds,
Right.
do we want to revert that motion because it's still there, or do we want to reconsider that motion? Because if we do this motion now, we are going to fund it
motions.
for both ESSER 2 and
2
ESSER
and
3.
3.
Didn't I say this supersedes that? It says
Well,
to
it's-
correct the April 18th motion.
Was it part of the motion?
Yes. No, she said that first before.
It was a right, it was
Yeah.
a statement. We need something official, I believe,
Right.
Okay.
to
To
correct
correct
it.
it.
Can we put it in the motion then?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Does
I
that
think
work?
so. I think it'll make it more.
I move to correct the motion of April 18th, authorizing the use of ESSER 2 funds for the Mountain View bus turnaround, so that the motion then now reads, and what
And
I
then
read.
what's here.
Yes.
Got that, Denise? Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Dan. All right, so Ellen, you have a motion. Do I have a second? Ginny, you have a second? Did you have a question too?
No, just
Okay.
a second.
Just a second. All right, thank you. Any other questions, discussion before we take a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. All right, thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
All right, so we are going to start with first reads. So your packet tonight is what we just did last week, so there's no action tonight. Read through it. It'll come back June 6th for question and answer, and then June 20th we'll do second read. So that's just to read through tonight, or read through and we'll come back to it. And then the next part, C, These policies were from the last meeting, from April 18th. Is there any questions anybody has on any of these policies? If there are no questions, they'll come back June 6th for second read.
So these are all coming back on June 6th?
For second read. So if you had any questions, tonight would be the night.
So we go through it, okay.
So all of these policies, by the time we finish board meetings this school year, if we are happy, we'll be able to move them forward and get them on the website. And yeah, we're really chugging through here. So does anybody have any questions on any of the packet?
I believe the
Oh, Jared?
ones,
Oh,
the
go.
ones that are being introduced tonight,
First reads.
right.
ones?
But then we have a meeting for queries, and then it'll
Yes.
be at St. A's.
Right.
That would be, we would,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, I'm talking
I'm just
about-
trying to say if I heard you. You were talking about the April 18th ones. Because
Yes.
today is the second.
Right, but yes, April 18th, the ones right now are question and answers.
Right, it's not first read.
It's not first read.
Right,
Second
okay.
read will be June 6th.
Yes.
Okay. So, Jared, did you get that? Dan, you good? Because the
Yeah.
first packet tonight
Yes, I
is
wanted to
first
make sure
reads.
we were talking about the
Yes.
same packet.
Okay. Jared?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just know that there was some robust conversation at the SAU about this process that we're trying to familiarize ourselves with. So what we're looking at today, that starts with policy KGA, you're looking for questions tonight. Now, at our next meeting, when we have second reads, if there was something that we missed, would we be allowed to ask questions then?
I think so.
Okay.
We may,
Yeah.
and then we would just move it forward. Motions would be made and voted on.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so is everybody good on the question and answer policies? All right. So then, the next packet is now second read. So tonight, the policy starting with EBBD, these are now ready to have a motion and vote on. If everybody is happy with all of them, we can do one motion, but you just have to read off each policy. So Denise gets them all. Or we could do one at a
I'm
time.
willing to make the motion.
All right, is everybody good with all these policies?
I would rather do them one at a time, because sometimes you see one little thing.
Okay, all
It'll go quick.
right. Is
I'll do
everybody
one
good
at a
with
time.
all these policies?
Just one little thing,
Okay, which one?
No.
Oh, all right, so
Okay,
I'm gonna read off the matrix, so go ahead,
I
Ellen.
move to approve policy EBBD,
Okay, so,
indoor air quality.
all right, so I have a motion from Ellen, do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we are unanimous. Okay, Ellen, go
I
ahead.
move that we approve policy EBC, crisis prevention and response.
All right, do I have a second?
Hang on.
That's what it says.
The recommendation is we withdraw it. Isn't it?
Yes. But
That's
we're
not what I heard.
we're
That
recommending
we, okay, that we accept the
withdraw.
recommendation to withdraw. How's
Yep.
that?
There you go.
Policy EBC. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Ellen. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Okay, we're unanimous.
Okay,
Okay,
I
Ellen.
move that we recognize no changes being made to EBCB,
Okay,
fire drills.
thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? We're unanimous.
Okay, I'll move that the board acknowledge no recommended changes to policy GBGBA, use of automated external defibrillators.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. Go ahead, Ellen.
Okay, I move, okay, I move the acceptance of policy regulation KD, and KDR.
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
and Shane is seconding. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, we're unanimous. Okay, two more, Ellen.
Okay, I move we accept the changes proposed to policy GBEF and regulation GBEFR.
Perfect. Do I have a second by Shane? All right. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous. And the last one, Ellen.
Okay, I move that we accept that there are no changes proposed for policy JICL and regulation JICLR, student acceptable use policy.
All right, do I have a second?
And I would love to second it.
Thank you, Shane.
I have a question.
We have a
Yes.
system.
Question.
When I'm looking at all of the dates that we put on the behind, sometimes it'll say PRC review date, other times it says proposed 4/4/2022 first read. I mean, we're being somewhat inconsistent. I'm not sure.
Just read the decision. It should have just said proposed tonight. That's why you have an
Okay,
My bad.
okay.
Are you good?
Would it be just when it finally goes on administratively, we will have the correct verbiage, and I don't know if we want to put that in there, that we all agree to that, and that's okay. I'm
That's
good with
fine.
that.
All right.
Yep.
All right, so I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion on the last policy? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We are unanimous. Thank you, Ellen and Shane. Thank you, everyone. So we're done with policies until next time. All right, new business. Goffstown School District 2023-28 CIP.
Mr. Gross.
Thank you. So before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you're probably not losing your mind. This is a little bit earlier than what it usually is, so that our submission is due by this Friday, and I want to give tons of credit. Dawn Tabor does a phenomenal, she's our facilities supervisor. She does, not only this matrix here, I put this together, but Dawn does all of the individual sheets with all the explanations on every one of them, not just for facilities, but also for Steve and IT. So I got to thank Dawn for that. But really, Dawn, Randy, and Steve Bourget are the ones who put a ton of time, into this, and then they meet with Brian, myself, and others. What you're going to see here, you're going to see things that are not on here anymore, because using some of those health trust monies, capital reserve fund, et cetera, we've been able to pick off things in our CIP. Consequently, there's a lot of things that we've added. So you'll see as we go through this, we've put a lot of pavement projects in the CIP. So what I'm going to do is, like I did with the A&F committee, I'm going to go over and just quickly highlight what has been on the CIP, and then I'll really talk more about what's new, what we've added.
Can you tell us what you took off? Like if I compare this to the last document.
I couldn't tell you off the
Okay.
top of my head, but I
Okay.
could at a later date.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
So heating controls, that has been on here for a while. We just talked about the heating controls RFP. That's being prepared now, and our plan is to use a grant for the heating controls project, which would change it from pneumatic controls right now to digital controls. And we have a similar project at Maple Avenue. So again, that's a project. Now, when we talk about, I should point out, especially to some of the newer members, the town and the school are on different fiscal years. So 2022 is the calendar year for the town. 2022 for us is 2022, 2023. Okay, just so you know.
Ellen, did you have a question? Hang
Yeah,
on,
just
Scott.
real quick, because it says, that very first item says not occur in 2022. So
Right.
does that mean the 80 and the 100,000
The
get
80 is
pushed
now,
out?
right, so now we've changed the 80 to 100.
change the 80 to
Yep.
100. So
Yep.
the 80 for 2022 is crossed
Right,
off,
what we thought might be 80,000 is now going to be 100,000.
and the 100,000 is what it's going to cost in 2023.
Right.
Gotcha, thank you.
Bathroom renovation, that was similar to years past, although we moved it ahead to 2025. And then you'll see we have roof replacement sections. Dan asked a question in A&F about what section is this? I don't know the answer.
Oh, we have maps of all of them.
Okay, we can get you that, I just don't know off the top of my head.
So at Bartlett, there's three parts. There's the part that is the old original building. I think that is the A.
Yeah, it's A, yeah.
Okay, original building. And then B is the left wing in the front, I believe. And then all the remaining, the gym and some of the other area, that's C. I think Dawn has maps of all
Yeah.
these, Scott, so at some point in time, even if it's just for our CIP rep, those might be good maps to have as part of
I
our,
was going to ask for
yeah.
that.
Because she's got them all labeled. I know
Yeah.
she's got them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just
Sorry.
as, just for this, Scott, I'm looking at the memo section for at least the roof, and we are listing life expectancy there, which is great, 0 to 1 years. Is that for 2014 or for this point in time?
For that particular year.
For that,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. I was thinking the same thing.
Number 9, laptop cart replacement, that's similar to last year. These are student laptop cart replacements. And then boiler replacement was on last year's as well. And then the new one is a parking lot and driveway overlay of pavement. As I mentioned to A&F, only 2 of our schools, we think, will be able to overlay a new layer of asphalt, and that would be Bartlett being one and Glen Lake being the other. Our worst pavement situation is at Mountain View. I'd say our second worst is probably Maple, and then our third worst is here at the high school. And in those situations, we don't believe that there's a whole lot of ability to just simply overlay. You have to kind of reclaim it. It means you have to rip it up and put new stuff down. So that was it for Bartlett. Any questions on that? Going on to Maple Avenue, again, heating controls project, it's substantially similar to the one at Bartlett. Bathroom renovations, again, we pushed, that's a 2-year phase project, and we pushed that out 1 year. A ton of roof replacements, again, we'll get you the maps on that. Laptop cart replacement, the air handler, boiler replacement, those are all from last year's CIP. Dawn added the abatement of asbestos. We had to replace a countertop at Maple Avenue due to age and deterioration, and the pipes below that countertop were covered, what's the word, encapsulated, I guess, with asbestos, so we had to have some asbestos abatement. Dawn got a bid to do all of those pipes that are underneath those types of counters for $32,000. There's no danger right now. They're not being disturbed, but if you ever were to do repairs, you'd have to deal with it at that time. So, again, I don't want anybody getting nervous. It's all good, but when you do any type of work to something that does contain asbestos-containing materials, you have to address it then. Parking lot, driveway reclaim, that is in 2028. And lastly, Randy mentioned that we need to do some chimney repairs over there, and we put that in for 2024. On your next page, we go to the Glen Lake School, and there are 3 new ones, and it's actually on line number 30 should say drainage near Elm Street. There's significant ponding there, and that might require some sort of a catch basin, et cetera, but I want to try to address that. You'll note 31 is the exploration of full-day kindergarten with a caveat based on availability of state building aid. That number of $7.5 million is kind of, could be a very low number, but it's on there. If there's any changes in building aid, it's out there. So no one can say that the board is not thinking about it, but it's just the far extreme.
I appreciate you putting that on,
Yep.
Scott. Thank you.
And then lastly, parking lot and driveway overlay. The pavement at Glen Lake is fairly good. So that's one where you could just put a top coat on. Mountain View, locker room floors, the fire panel, cafe tables, window repairs is on there. You're going to ask, well, if you're doing a windows project, why aren't you doing these repairs? Because you can't use ESSER funds for the repair. That's why. And so as the seals fail, those would just simply get, replaced in time. We have the same issue here at the high school. So Mountain View, we're replacing the hilltop window set. Those glass blocks. We're installing a couple of new windows in the kitchen, because there's no windows in there now for ventilation purposes. Very modest in terms of the window replacements going on at Mountain View. But Mountain View in here at the high school, we do have their, I guess, newer, older windows that you might need to fix the seals. We have septic replacements been on there for a while, in-building transformer replacement, laptop cart replacement, computer lab, all those have been on there in years past, as well as the hilltop stage improvements, air handler replacement, generator replacement, all those have been on there before. You'll see a new one, number 47, which is the MVMS project Phase 2. Again, I said to Dan earlier, I have no idea what new vortex plate is on the inside of the tank with the stand. But Randy advised us that this is a multiple phase approach, and that in another 5 years, we have to go back in there and do some more work. So that's on there. And then lastly, Mountain View is by far the worst in terms of our pavement situation. We are going to be fixing some of the potholes over the next few weeks, but we're not going to seal coat it because it's in such a bad shape that seal coating would be putting good money after bad. So we're gonna stripe all the lines and all, but we're just going to be judicious in where we're actually seal coating. Next page is Goffstown High School. And again, those roof sections will get you those maps later on. Items 54, which is the abatement for asbestos in the floors, that's again a recurring one, and then those retiling of those floors. The exterior door replacement, and this also dawned on me. Brian mentioned before that we are applying for a grant. The grant would be to replace the doors with access controls, et cetera. So I forgot to mention this in the A&F, but that would be another one that I'm going to change it from tax appropriation to grant, because we're applying for that grant. Generator, this is another grant that we're going to be applying for when that window opens up. The superintendent and myself signed off on a letter expressing interest in it, which was the first step, and we'll see if we can get that. We have had conversations with the police chief, and we will soon have more conversations with both the police and fire chief with respect to the generator, because Goffstown High School is the building which we want to become the new emergency shelter for Goffstown. Right now, it's Mountain View, and for a whole host of reasons, this is a far better location. Items 60 through 62, they've been on CIP for a while. It's just computer lab replacements, cards, switches, etc. The door security is a grant. Theater expansion, we pushed that way out to 2028. We didn't feel that it would be feasible in the short term. We decided where we were going to put our investment, and the board is authorized up to $300,000 for renovations. So that's going to address the seating, the flooring, the lighting, and painting it, and perhaps some other things if possible. But so that expansion was for storage, and that has been bumped way out if there's any type of grant funding available. And air handler replacements, the turf field and lights, that's from last year. The parking lot, driveway, and sidewalk reclamation, that's another hefty price tag, but it's also a pretty big area. Number 69 is to replace the 3 exterior stair units. These are in the front parking lot. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the concrete's kind of not doing all that well. They've sealed it, but that's a project that we have down the road. It'll be a very similar to the process that we use for the back with precast concrete with granite treads. And the treads, as I mentioned to the group earlier, to the A&F committee, they're much better when it comes to rock salt, calcium chloride. They hold up really, really well. Concrete just doesn't hold up well to rock salt and winter conditions. And then lastly, with the window repairs, again, way out. The last page is your district-wide expenses. So there are a couple of corrections here. Single core key system, Steve Bourget says that this is something we could put into our grant, so we're going to do that. So this would be more of a master key type of situation. I don't know if you've ever seen Steve, but he carries around like 20 pounds of keys, as well as do many of our custodians, so that'll help there. The next one, let's see, same thing, line number 80, security camera upgrades. I'm going to change that to grant because that's all part of that grant that Steve's going to apply for. It allows up to $500,000 for security camera upgrades, door security, you name it. So we're going to put all those rekeying, locks, all that in there. I received a phone call from our Parks and Rec director to put out in the furthest year a resurfacing of the track. And Rick provided me with that number. That's his guesstimate at this point. We'll have to, as we get closer to that date, we'll have to revise that. And then lastly, the superintendent has long talked about a generator for our elementary schools, one that would be a portable one, that if we did have a power outage, we could bring it over there and hook up. So again, that would be, only available if we get a grant for that. So that's your CIP proposal. That,
Ellen, go
I
ahead.
assume, Ellen, you're going to be the one who's leading the charge on this one? Are you doing CIP?
I'm
this
doing
one?
CIP, yeah.
Okay.
I did have a question. I did notice, apparently somehow we've expanded the parking in the back of the high school. It looks like it's bigger than it was. I don't,
The student parking up top?
by the fields, it looks like it's bigger than it was anyway. With the field coming in, I don't even know if there's space to do it, but I would think we're going to need a lot of parking if we're going to have teams coming and the public coming out because we're doing the fields and the bleachers and everything like that. Should we be looking at further expansion of that parking in that area underneath the power lines?
Yeah, we've chatted about that. I will say that having been here for a variety of different events, parking, it can be a challenge if you have like a rivalry type of situation. They're rare.
Oh, okay.
You might have 3, 4 of those situations where it's a challenge, and then we typically, students and others park at Parks and Rec, they park at Barnard Park, we find a way to develop what you're talking about. There's ledge, there's some issues there. It's not impossible,
There's
but it's
water.
just, it's pretty costly for the time
Okay.
you probably need
Would
to
have
use
been
it.
needing?
Yeah, so, but I'm not saying that it wouldn't be good to have, it's probably, at this particular point, there would probably be other things, but it's just.
No, I don't disagree. I
Yeah.
just wanted to raise it because I'm thinking of the fields and the crowds.
Right, absolutely.
I know it wouldn't be weekly and stuff, but there'll be
Right.
a time when there's going to be a huge number of
And it's,
people
right,
here.
and it's hard to say too, Ellen, I think you make a good point, is that, we're in the minority in terms of, let's just say, like, evening type events, because we don't have lights, but when you go to other events, whether it be, soccer games, football games, you name it, and there's lights, more people tend to go than on a Saturday afternoon. So I'm not, by no means am I diminishing what you're saying, but I think we'd have to see how it all
What the needs really are.
plays out, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Go ahead, Jared.
I'll ask my first question, so that way we can break it up. Looking at things that you've presented prior, Scott, I know one of them was bleachers for the new field at the high school. I don't see that in here, though.
It's part of the, it's part of that whole project, because The project
Field
itself
project.
includes three subcomponents. So if you go, I'll give you the line number.
I see line 67, GHS.
Yeah.
Turf,
Yeah,
field,
and
and
it's all-
lights,
and it-
but I
yeah.
don't see
Oh,
bleachers.
So, you're right, that number should be revised upwards to 1.85, and bleachers, and I'll put bleachers in there. You are correct.
Thank you.
Because then there will be offsetting revenue in terms of the private donation that impacts that. But you are correct, thank you.
Yeah, no,
I got different line of questioning,
Are
but I
you
know
sure?
there's other questions. I'll come back.
Okay, Retta?
Yeah, just a quick question about the chimney repairs for the Maple Ave. It says that it's failed now. Is that something that needs to be taken care of now?
No, so what this one is the board may recall a number of years ago, we only had one boiler at Maple Ave School, and it's a very, very old boiler. We added a second boiler that is the primary boiler, but we kept the old boiler as a backup, and that boiler is attached to a chimney that needs work. So we haven't done those chimney repairs because right now we're not using that boiler because we have a fairly new boiler, but we want to do those chimney repairs so that we can have that backup redundancy. Because right now, we have a new boiler, but anytime you have one boiler, that boiler goes down, you potentially are closing school. You're potentially closing school for upwards of a week if you can't get parts, if you can't get a technician. So that's why we need to do those repairs. And likely that includes, Scott, I know they were gonna have a mason come out. I don't know if this ever happened, but we were just looking to put a metal bestis chimney down that and then doing any
Repointing,
structural
yeah.
repairs on the outside of the masonry.
But if we had a need for it in the next year, wouldn't be able to use it, or?
Well, so that's an interesting question that we talked about, because I think, I don't know that I'm clear, I don't know that I can answer that question,
I know
because
I
I don't
can't.
know what Lieutenant Connor's answer
Yeah.
is. So we'll have to delve a little more into that, but
Yeah.
either way, we want to repair that chimney, because you want the backup boiler in case you need it, for that very reason.
Absolutely.
And when was that?
2024,
2024.
Well,
so that might need to
Sooner is
go
better than later,
sooner.
yeah.
Thank you, Retta. All right, Jared, go ahead.
So looking at a funding source for these items, I see really four categories. You have the grant, the CRF, the tax appropriation, and then we have the impact fees. I know there's some other miscellaneous ones. For the tax appropriated items, are we looking to build this in our operating budget, or would we think that this would be separate warrant articles to try to pass these?
So, in my opinion, the vast majority of them would be separate warrant articles due to the price tag. The other thing I'm just gonna, I talked to the superintendent about it when we were reviewing this, is that I think we need to start talking, not now, but as we start to formulate, we have to start thinking about a bond down the road, because if you look at just the asphalt projects, you know, it's like $3.5 million. There's no way we're gonna be able to fund all this. And when you look at some of your just plant machinery type of stuff, I mean, it's millions. So what many school districts do is they wrap all this stuff together and they put out a bond, and it's, I guess, I try to give examples that the average person might relate to. This is kind of like you're taking out like a loan to do a home renovation type project, because your
septic
house
system,
needs,
new roof.
it needs stuff.
New furnace.
But again, going back to just my real world example, it's one thing to replace your dishwasher, then to maybe replace your furnace. But, you know, when you gotta replace the roof and the siding and the windows and the kitchen and like, at some point you're like, okay, I gotta take out like a $100,000 loan to do all this. I can't do it, it's $5,000 here, $6,000 there, it's just impossible. So when you look at this, and I think what tipped me over the edge in terms of, wow, we probably need to start thinking about a bond, you know, in that 27 year, right around there, is because you look at the asphalt and you look at some of these big roof, you know, these are things that cost a lot of money. I just don't think that by putting in our $200,000 CRF deposits that we're gonna be able to we're not going to be able to tackle that. So,
But that's the direction that he and I
Yeah.
have been talking about.
I just
and-
recently, the last couple
yeah.
of weeks, it's just
We
too much
kind of
on
don't
here.
know any other way to do it. I mean, by the time you start adding roofs and boilers and bathroom renovations and a large paving project,
And it
you're
impacts-
in the
Right.
multi-millions.
And it impacts every single
away.
school here, you know? I mean, even Glen Lake, which is our newest facility, you still have a pavement project that's quite expensive, but, so that's, I think the lesson that I've learned through this, you know, the CIP process is that, for one, not to brag too much, but I think that Randy and Dawn and Steve, they just do a really good job of putting down the things that we need, you know, into the future. The board, we're talking about all these things. There's really no big surprises. But it also gives us an opportunity to plan ahead. And I think when you look through this, that's probably where we're going to land, you know, having to do that. And I'd be curious, Ellen, when we go to CIP, you know, seeing what others think as well. But
Yeah, it'd be a good idea.
these are all, you know, our school buildings are they're community assets. Brian, you say that all the time. I mean,
It's the most valuable community asset that this town owns, are these buildings.
I'd venture to say that this Goffstown High School is probably used like 350 days out of the year. I mean, you might have a few Christmas and some others where it's not, but this thing is used Saturdays, Sundays, the field, I mean, all the time. So we have to take care of these facilities.
Jared, did you have any other questions?
I think somebody else is gonna, I guess, more of a statement is, you know, we have a vision that we need to put together for our financial plan that we're doing for all of these items. I just don't know if we have a guiding principle or any kind of policy document. I'm trying to bring up policies real quick to see if we have anything that states, you know, when we should be planning to do separate warrant articles for these items versus using CRF money, because I'm worried that we've established the rigor of why we use CRF and why we needed to have CRF. And now is there going to be a shift to say, okay, if it's a big ticket item, that's not going to be CRF. We're going to actually have to have a separate warrant article for that, because we've communicated to the community 3-4 years now saying we need CRF so that we can roll over money from year to year so that we can save up for these big items. But now we're going to say, well, we can't do that anymore because of, you know, we need to have the septic, and it's going to be $200,000, and that's going to have to be a separate warrant article. Things that I'm thinking of that I just want to bring to attention now as we continue to move forward. Because we have established CRF, it was for maintaining money in an account for capital replacement items. And I know that $200,000 a year that we've been doing may not be enough.
Right.
And so is the thought process, maybe we need to increase that versus doing separate warrant articles to, you know, maintain our, you know, vision that we've had over the past couple of years. If we're going to change that, I want to make sure that we're starting to communicate that at the appropriate time.
Right.
I think
Well,
this is a great, like,
Agreed.
it is,
Yeah.
I think this is a retreat-worthy
Agreed.
Yeah.
topic of conversation.
Agreed.
And Jared, I'd be more than happy to chat with you, to prepare for a retreat, to have that conversation, to talk about philosophy, options, what triggers what. But looking through this, especially, you know, when I put all those pavement projects in, I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, that's what really kind of, seeing the condition of the Mountain View pavement, and then talking with Continental Paving, and then they looked at the high school, it's just like, oh boy. And then knowing what Maple is too. And I'm telling you that the Mountain View pavement, it's going to deteriorate quicker as it gets worse. So it just
Right.
exponentially gets, so
And remember, there's a septic system underneath part of that
underneath the
parking
parking lot.
Right,
So
Yeah.
I think we have to have that conversation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we talked about increasing the CRF this last year, but then we had increased some other stuff, but yeah, I think it's definitely a conversation we need to have. Ellen?
Yeah, excellent conversation. The CRF has been a wonderful tool to help across the board we happen to have some huge
Projects.
dollar and cents numbers
Yep.
coming up that CRF can still be going on,
Yep.
but we're going to have these really large ticket items. Increasing the CRF, I'd like to see how that plays out with what we're projecting to be doing. And I'd like to run these things by the CIP group and see what they think, and then when we go to Budget Committee,
Right.
I'd like to get their feedback as well before we make those decisions.
Right.
Because these are big, and apparently our roads, our parking and pavement stuff has never been put on most of our big ticket items are put on some kind of a cycle,
Right.
a rotation, and apparently we've never done that with our paving and our parking and driveways and stuff.
Yeah.
So we might want to, I don't know how you do that, how you start a cycle when you're doing it all
At once.
so
Yeah.
close together.
Right.
But it might be something we
The-
look at, putting it on
The
some kind
other
of a
thing that
cycle.
Brian and I learned, we're dealing with one in New Boston right now, we're paving an area, like, you save so much money on mobilization when they're doing, like, you will save a ton of money if they're doing all of your schools
Yep.
over a period of time versus just coming in one
I
here,
hear you.
one there,
Yep.
that's one. And I also want to backtrack a little bit in the sense that the superintendent just mentioned that we're going to apply for this grant, Stephen Borgettis. That's a 75-25 or 80-20 type grant. So if we're applying hypothetically for, $500,000, we might need $100,000. Well, our CRF, we'd be, if we're replacing doors, et cetera, we have that money.
Right.
So that's another thing to keep in mind, whether that's, we can't use it for new stuff, but anything that we have that existing, we can get a grant, we can leverage that in terms of those cost share opportunities. So it's helpful in that respect.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any other questions for Scott on CIP? When do you start CIP meetings?
Soon.
Ellen? It's gonna be
I
soon,
have a
right? June?
tentative date in mid-June,
Okay.
Yeah.
but I haven't heard anything
Yeah,
solid.
that'll be coming up soon, I'm sure.
But Scott, we need to submit this week.
Yeah, it's all due this week, and that's why, I let Patty Gale know at Town Hall. I'm like, okay, I need the board to see this before I submit it.
The tentative date I have is the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion
Oh, no.
to submit
The
the
2nd.
school district CIP plan as amended to the planning committee.
Thank you, Jared. Do I have a second? By Ginny. Any further discussion before I take a vote? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous.
And I don't know if Denise caught me, but it was June 2nd and 16th.
June 2nd?
This is the other date, the tentative dates that I was given at the
Thursday.
Oh,
Zoom
okay.
meeting. Yeah.
And many thanks to Scott for all the work that he did on
Yes,
this.
absolutely.
He's-
Thank you,
He's quick
Scott.
to give the credit away to others, but he does the majority of this.
All right, so moving on to Goffstown field trip to Boston.
Okay, so what I've got here is we are looking for students on January 19th, 2023, leaving at 4 p.m. and going to the Citizens Bank Opera House in Boston with 50 kids to go see Hamilton. Hamilton on Broadway.
Awesome.
That's a wonderful
And we're
play.
looking to do this now because they are looking to buy a block of tickets,
Nice.
and there's preferred pricing. I don't know how much people know about Broadway, but these tickets are about $54, and I think that's considerably cheaper than one could ever find them
Yes.
elsewhere. So continued appreciation to Mr. DeRocher, Mr. Belding, and of course, Mrs. McCann, who oversees everything performing arts related.
Nice.
Can I
Okay.
move?
I would make a motion
Yep.
to accept their trip to Broadway in Hamilton.
All right, so I have a motion by Ginny.
Sounds
Do I have a
awesome.
second? By Ellen? Any further discussion?
Did Mrs. Moran get that? Okay, because I didn't hear it. I'm presuming what it said.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
All right, so I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
That's awesome.
And we're unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. They'll have a wonderful time.
They will have a wonderful time.
All right, school staffing.
Okay, so we have one notification, just assignment change for Jessica Murray, moving from a elementary classroom to an English language arts position. I think in 8th grade, she's moving up to 8th grade to replace Mrs. Baldwin. So that's notification only. Now, for your approvals, do you want to do these by section?
Yeah, let's do them by section.
Okay, so you've got a resignation of a high school math teacher.
All right. So I'll take a
Move to,
motion.
move to approve the teacher resignation of Kelsey Rezier.
All right.
Is that Resler?
Resler. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous.
What
Go
kind
ahead.
of math is that?
High school?
Brian?
Math?
Yeah, I think that was algebra 2. The next one is the 1-year extension for Dr. McMurray in the Dean of Remediation role.
So move to approve.
I should share, if I may, just while we're talking
Yeah.
about this specific position. I was at a meeting with the Commissioner of Education the other day, and he was talking about innovative practices using ESSER funds, and he gave 2 examples, and one of them was Mike McMurray.
Nice.
So actually, Mr. Gross got a call from someone at the Department of Ed who saw this project, thought it looked and sounded pretty interesting, read all the backup materials, and then called Scott and had some questions. And then, lo and behold, I was sitting at a meeting the other day, and here's the commissioner talking about this project and quoting Mike McMurray. So
That's awesome.
it was nice to see.
So I have a motion by Ellen.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. All right, so now there's questions. Ellen, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a 1-year extension. Is this still being paid for through grants?
Correct.
Yes.
Grants, okay. And when will we, I know we've asked several times, or at some point receive data on just how many children have been impacted and what are the results, and have the kids, has it had the
Right.
effect needed?
He's actually going to do that as part of the CNE meeting.
On
So,
Monday.
yeah, I think at this point, that's what we've got on the agenda, is for him to, he's going to provide the data to the principals, and the principals are going to report out on it. But all of the tutoring, all of the, some of those secondary programs that we've done, like chess and gardening, and some of the enrichment, he's going to report out on all that.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Go ahead.
It's been asked and answered.
Oh,
Thank you.
All right, perfect. All right, so I have a motion, I have a second. Further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous.
The next batch of teacher nominations, you can see that our principals have been busy hiring. So you'll recall that unfortunately, we've got a large group retiring this year. Boy, I tell you, they're finding them, and they're finding hard ones. So this includes math, music, computer science teacher, which has been,
Yes. That was a hard one this year.
oh, it
We
was
never filled
impossible.
it.
Yeah, so we've been fortunate so far. We've had pretty good luck, and we're happy to bring these nominations forward. And you'll see, we are hiring a lot of experienced teachers.
Good.
I don't think I've ever hired as many teachers that are kind of top step or near top step. We've got a lot of people that we've found who are very experienced teachers.
May I ask what's a SAP counselor?
That is a Student Adjustment Program Counselor, so that's working with kids that have different, sometimes substance abuse kind of related.
Okay, and that's only at the high school?
That's only at the high school. And you might notice the name attached to that.
Yes, it's a very familiar name.
So Mr. Webb left us and went to the Oyster River High School this year as the school counseling coordinator, and has decided he wanted to come home. We were happy to welcome him back.
That's great. I thought
Nice.
that name looked familiar.
I feel a whole lot more relieved seeing that we are able to recruit experienced people.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I hope it's because our contract passed and that's helped, and that,
We've actually
good
been.
place to work.
We've been
Right.
pretty fortunate plucking teachers from other school districts, so
Good.
I think
Okay.
the contract was a massive part of it.
it's good to hear.
Yep.
Thank
All
you.
right, so we need a motion for the teacher nominations.
So moved?
By Ellen, do I have a second?
Second.
By Ginny. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous.
Now, these
Support
last
staff.
two batches,
We could do together.
we can either do together or we can do after non-public if the board is so inclined.
Okay.
So the support staff specialist, SSS, so this includes 2 speech and language pathology assistants, 1 tutor, who I might point out is the retired Mrs. Peretta, who continues to be wonderful, and Carol Smith, Mrs. Smith, who's been with us for a long time. Those positions are not in either of our bargaining units. So the reason you see these separately is because these are non-union positions, and same thing with the technology positions. So I can tell you that those batches are all within budget, but if you'd like to get more details, as these are not union positions, we're happy to do that in non-public. Or, as I said, everything is, we are within budget on all of these, and it's kind of a set percentage.
Okay.
What does everybody think? Go ahead,
No.
Alan. Dan, go ahead.
I recognize some of these names. These aren't new hires.
We've got 2 of them, so you probably don't recognize 2 names in the technology. So you know Kevin Boulard. Kevin works right over there.
Betsy.
Kevin's been with us for a couple
Betsy's
years.
been-
Betsy's been with us forever.
Yeah.
Connor's been with us. And Phil is new, so that's one of our new positions, and Nick Smith has been with us. So there, we hired a couple of people. Philip is the one that you probably don't recognize the name. He is still new this year for us.
Go ahead, Alan.
Are any of these additional staff? Or
No.
these are all replacement or renewing?
Correct.
Okay.
Renewing.
So
Thank
is
you.
it, does everybody want to go to non-public and get them, or you want to do motion now?
Well, let me ask this question. How, maybe it's for Scott, how was the budget prepared? So we're saying they're within budget. And so we got people who left and people coming in, it's all within budget.
When we, for one, I would probably say these are technology re-nominations, but they were all budgeted for already. So
Yeah.
there's no issues
So
there.
we went through the budget, when we did the budget,
Right,
we had seen the numbers.
Right.
And I don't remember, Jared, if you saw anything that was not, or inappropriate, or,
I think
My yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
go ahead.
comfortable sharing, if I may, Dan, that I believe these are 3% increases, with the exception of the 2 technology technician ones, which have a slightly higher bump based on Mrs. McGrath's benchmarking and some of the just competitiveness of those 2 roles. So those 2 had a slightly higher, but everybody else, I believe, was a 3%.
and the teacher contract, I think, was a step in 3%.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we're well within budget, but I'm happy to give you the exact numbers if you want to do it in non-public, or we've got 3 other things for non-public tonight. If you want to go forward, it's up to the board.
I'm fine.
I'm
good.
I'm fine.
All right, so let's do a motion.
Okay, move
um,
approval of support staff nominations and technology nominations.
All right, thank you, Alan. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, and we're unanimous. So that's it for staffing?
Nope, on the
No.
very bottom, if you, sorry, we kind of snuck in 2 others.
Oh.
So,
Oh, here they are.
2 requests, sorry, and it kind of doesn't stand out a lot.
No, that's okay.
I'm going to do these out of order. I'm going to do the 504 position first. The board may recall that we had created a Section 504 support position teacher this year. That was the first year we'd ever done that. This has been a very successful program. The current caseload is 144 students that have accessed this person for support. 103 of those are students with 504s, and the remaining students who are kids who are at risk, have medical issues, failing classes, and there's just this group of kids that have needed extra support. So this position is technically within the special ed department by category, and currently our person who is in this role is Sylvia Lewis, and she has done a spectacular job. We used an existing science position from the high school to staff it this year. They have been able to keep that position so that we can fund the 504 position again next year without an impact to science classes. We had to wait until students did course enrollments. We had to wait and see what electives looked like, but at this point, we're able to, I don't know that this will be beyond this year, but this would be another kind of a one-year extension for this program. And again, this would be, we've got a lot of kids that need a lot of support, and Mrs. Lewis has really been pretty magical in helping a lot of kids. So we would ask the board to continue to allow us to use the existing high school position to keep this 504 support position.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yeah.
I move that we approve the GHS 504 Coordinator Case Manager position for 1 more year as presented.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. Any discussion or questions? Jenny?
This doesn't impact anything at the high school. I know this is very important, but there doesn't impact a program at the high school
No,
losing that
it's,
teacher?
and in fact, this has really been a successful program. So
Okay.
actually, in the room, right on the other side of that wall, I come through here often, and there are always, it's full. She's got a lot of kids in there, so it's not taking anything away
Okay.
from anything. My fear was if we had more science enrollments, then I might have had a hard decision to make here. But at this point, we've been able to cover all of the science requests without touching this.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, and we are unanimous.
And the second one, we have a request, and this is a little unusual, so let me give a little bit of background. At this point, I think the board knows we have had a lot of difficulty filling paraprofessional positions. I think you've all heard that. We have vacancies that we can't fill right now. So it would have been easy enough for me to just say, I need 2, okay, so let me tell you what I've got. Mrs. Stoyle at Glen Lake is asking for 2 additional paraprofessionals for next year. One position would be 4.5 days, which would be 30.5 hours a week, and there's a cost estimated at $32,170, including benefits. And the second position would be 4 days, 27 hours a week, at a cost of $29,117. The second position, the $29,117, will be paid by 2 other school districts to support foster place students. So the $29,117 is going to be, there will be offsetting revenue associated with that. The first position, the 4.5-hour position, this is actually a student that is our student, and we need to provide those services at this point. And again, we could use an existing position, but I don't know if on some miracle we're able to hire paras and I'm fully staffed. This would be a position that we still needed. So right now, I'm asking to approve these, knowing that we have vacancies that are unfilled. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. I'll move approval of the Glen Lake para requests, both of them.
All right, so I have a motion by Ellen. Do I have a second? By Ginny. Any further discussion or questions? Go ahead, Jerry.
Just as a question, and I might be just having issues remembering, but are these to support IEPs?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. These are all special education students.
thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't share that.
No, you probably did, I just might have went out.
All right, any other questions?
Just out of a general nature, all paraprofessionals serve the special ed department anyway, right?
They do.
And so it's got to be most of the time an IEP
Yes.
type of thing, whether it's a specific one-on-one or it's like saying, I got to help other kids in the classroom or something.
Or
Correct.
504.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so I have a motion, I have a second. Ready to take a vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, we are unanimous. All right, so is that it?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other business that may legally come before the meeting. Anyone? Nope. All right. We do have non-public tonight, so we'll go down in the conference room. So we're going under C. Is that all of them for C?
All of them under C.
Okay.
And just for giggles, Heather, we all got one of these.
What is it? Oh,
Oh,
calendar.
in fact,
Calendar.
I, thank you, Mr. Cloutier. Judging by the look on Mrs. Moran's face, you might have saved me, because I was supposed to mention that earlier.
Yes, you were.
I was, and I've got it. Hold on.
Alright, so go back.
I've got it. Mrs. Moran gave you a new calendar. She just wanted you to see that the last day of school had been changed to reflect the one snow day that we had this year, and the new last day is the
15th of
June
June.
15th.
15th of June.
Half day, early release. Right?
Yep.
Very good.
All right.
What color is the snow day? Red?
Oh, boy.
There it is,
There it is,
February
we had
25th.
one. We had one.
You had to add that into the red too, didn't you?
All right, so we good with that?
You don't need a motion,
You wouldn't be
right?
able to read
No,
it.
well, no.
That was an
just
FYI.
Yeah, that's an
informational.
FYI. All right, so I'm going to need a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant.
So moved.
By Dan.
Second.
By Ellen, second. All right, I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Ellen? Yes. Dan?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. So now we're non-public.
So now we're going downstairs.
We'll go down to the
Pack up
conference
and
room.
go down to the conference room.